What happens when a royal guest walks onto a talk show stage thinking she is untouchable, only to discover that one host refuses to bow down? In just 38 seconds, a single comment would ignite a firestorm that would leave viewers stunned, a host vindicated, and a guest storming off set in fury. The studio lights blazed hot that morning, cameras rolling as Piers Morgan sat behind his desk with that signature look of calm confidence. He had interviewed presidents, criminals, celebrities, and everyone in between. Nothing rattled him. He knew how to ask the tough questions, the ones others were too scared to touch. Today would be no different. Meghan Markle walked onto the set with an air that filled the room. Designers, clothes, perfect hair. That practiced smile she had perfected over years in the spotlight. The audience clapped politely as she took her seat across from Piers, crossing her legs and settling in like she owned the place. "Welcome to the show," Piers said, his voice warm but professional. "Thank you for joining us today." "Happy to be here," Meghan replied, though her tone suggested she was doing him a favor. Piers leaned forward slightly, his pen tapping against his notes. "Let's dive right in, shall we? You have been quite vocal lately about your experiences, your feelings about the press, about privacy. Yet here you are, on television, doing interview after interview. Some might say that is a bit contradictory. What do you say to that?" The smile on Meghan's face froze for just a moment. "Well, Piers, I think there is a difference between choosing to share your truth and having lies spread about you." "Your truth?" Piers repeated, nodding slowly. "That is an interesting phrase. Does that mean there are multiple truths? Because usually, truth is just truth. It is not something you get to pick and choose." Meghan shifted in her seat. "I think you are twisting my words." "I am simply asking for clarity," Piers said, his tone still professional. "You have made some very serious accusations about racism, about being silenced, about not receiving help when you needed it. These are heavy claims. But when people ask for specifics, for evidence, you tend to speak in generalities. Can you understand why some people might be skeptical? Are you calling me a liar?" Meghan's voice had an edge now, sharp and cutting. "I am asking you to back up what you are saying," Piers responded calmly. "That is what journalists do. We ask questions, we seek truth. Not your truth or my truth, but the actual truth." Meghan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You know what, Piers? This is exactly the problem. People like you, sitting in your comfortable chair, in your comfortable life, thinking you can question what I went through. You have no idea what it is like to be in my position." "You are right," Piers said, nodding. "I have never been a royal, but I have interviewed thousands of people, many who have been through terrible things, and they managed to give straight answers to straight questions. I am not attacking you. I am asking you to explain yourself." "Explain myself?" Meghan's voice rose. "I do not need to explain myself to you or anyone else. I lived it. I was there." "You were not." Piers did not flinch. "If you go on television and make accusations that damage people's reputations, damage an institution that has existed for centuries, then yes, you absolutely need to explain yourself. That is how it works. You do not get to throw grenades and then hide behind 'you were not there' when someone asks you to justify it." The audience had gone quiet. You could feel the tension building, thick and electric. Meghan leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "You have had it out for me from the beginning. You are bitter because I stopped responding to your messages. This is personal for you." Piers actually laughed at that. "You think I am sitting here, on my show, asking you legitimate questions because you stopped texting me back? That is quite the imagination you have got there. This is not about me. This is about you making claims that you cannot or will not support with facts." "I do not need to support anything," Meghan shot back. "My experience is valid. My pain is real. And if you cannot understand that, then you are part of the problem." "Your experience might be real to you," Piers said, his voice steady as a rock. "But when you make claims about other people, when you accuse an entire family, an entire institution of terrible things, your feelings are not enough. You need facts. You need proof. Otherwise, it is just an opinion, and opinions are not the same as truth." Meghan stood up suddenly, the movement sharp and dramatic. "I do not have to sit here and be interrogated like a criminal." "You are not being interrogated," Piers said, remaining seated, completely calm. "You agreed to come on this show. You knew what kind of interviewer I am. If you only want people to throw you softball questions and tell you how brave you are, there are plenty of shows that will do that. This is not one of them." "You are a bully," Meghan said, her voice shaking with anger. You are a misogynist who cannot stand a strong woman speaking her mind. Piers raised an eyebrow. I interview strong women all the time who manage to answer questions without falling apart or calling me names. Margaret Thatcher never called me a bully. Neither did Madonna, or Hillary Clinton, or Dame Judi Dench. They came on, they answered tough questions, they defended their positions with facts and logic. You are calling me names because you do not have answers. How dare you compare me to them? Meghan snapped. You are right, Piers said. I apologize. That was unfair of me. Those women earned their reputations through years of actual work and achievement. You married into fame, the audience gasped. Meghan's face went red. You know what? She said, her voice tight with rage. I have given up everything. My career, my family, my country. I left it all behind. You did not give up anything, Piers countered, his voice rising slightly for the first time. You traded it for something you thought was better. You wanted to be a princess. You got to be a princess. Then you decided you did not like the rules that came with being a princess, so you left. That is not giving something up. That is making a choice and then complaining about it. I was being destroyed, Meghan said. The press was destroying me. The press asked questions, Piers said. That is what we do. And if you cannot handle questions, if you cannot handle scrutiny, then maybe you should not have married into the most famous family on earth. Did you think it was going to be all tiaras and tea parties? Every royal has dealt with press criticism, every single one, but they understand that it comes with the territory. You seem to think you should be exempt from it. Because of my race, Meghan said, jabbing a finger toward him. You and everyone else treat me differently because of my race. Piers shook his head. Do not hide behind that. Do not cheapen real racism by using it as a shield every time someone criticizes you. I have criticized plenty of white royals. I have gone after Prince Andrew, Prince Charles, even the Queen when I thought they deserved it. Being criticized is not racism. Being asked to back up your claims is not racism. Playing the race card every time someone disagrees with you is insulting to people who face actual racism. Meghan was trembling with anger now. You do not get to tell me what is and is not racism. And you do not get to accuse people of racism without proof and expect everyone to just accept it, Piers fired back. You made a claim that someone in the royal family made a racist comment about your son. Who was it? What did they say? When did it happen? Those are basic questions, but you will not answer them. You just make the accusation and let people draw their own conclusions, letting everyone wonder which member of the family you are talking about. That is cowardly. I do not have to tell you anything, Meghan said, her voice shaking. Then do not make the accusation in the first place, Piers said simply. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot claim you are being silenced while you are sitting on Oprah's couch being broadcast to millions of people. You cannot claim you want privacy while you are doing interviews and podcasts and making deals with Netflix. You cannot accuse people of racism and then refuse to say who or what or when. That is not how adults behave. Meghan grabbed her purse from beside her chair. I am done here. Of course you are, Piers said. Because when someone actually challenges you, when someone asks you to defend your position, you run away. You storm off. You play victim. I am not playing victim, Meghan shouted. I am a victim. Of what? Piers asked, spreading his hands. Of being rich? Of being famous? Of being a duchess? Of having a beautiful home and a family and millions of dollars and a platform that billions of people would kill for? Please, tell me how victimized you are. You are disgusting, Meghan said, her voice dripping with contempt. You are a disgusting, bitter, small man who makes a living tearing people down because it makes you feel important. Piers did not even blink. I make a living asking questions that need to be asked. If that upsets you, that is your problem, not mine. You ambushed me, Meghan said. You invited me here under false pretenses. I invited you here to do an interview, Piers said. That is what this is. An interview involves questions. If you thought you were just going to come here and give a speech while I nodded and smiled, you were mistaken. That is not what I do. You are a journalist? Meghan laughed harshly. You are a tabloid hack who got lucky. And yet here you are, Piers said with a slight smile, on my show. Because despite what you say, you need me more than I need you. You need the platform. You need the attention. That is why you keep doing interviews, is it not? Because the second people stop paying attention to you, you cease to exist. Meghan's hands were shaking as she pointed at him. You are going to regret this." "Is that a threat?" Piers asked calmly. "It is a promise," Meghan said. "I have friends. I have influence. You have no idea who you are messing with." Piers leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. "So now we get to the real you, not the victim, not the humanitarian, the person who threatens people when they do not bow down to you. Thank you for proving my point." "Go to hell," Meghan spat. "Not very Duchess-like language," Piers observed. "What would the Queen say?" Meghan turned to walk off the set, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. But Piers was not done. "Before you go," he called after her, "let me ask you one more question. If everything you say is true, if you were really treated so badly, if you really faced all this horror and racism and cruelty, why did it take you years to say anything? Why did you wait until after you left, until after you signed your big deals, until after you had something to gain from it? Why not speak up when it was actually happening?" Meghan spun around, her face a mask of fury. "Because I was scared." "Of what?" Piers asked. "You are telling me that you, a grown woman, an actress, someone who had her own life and career before any of this, was too scared to speak up? But now that you are safe in your California mansion, now that you have got your money and your Netflix deal, now you are brave enough? Convenient timing, do you not think? You do not know anything about me," Meghan said, her voice breaking. "I know enough," Piers said. "I know that you are someone who thought royal life would be all glamour and found out it was actually a work. I know that you did not like being second fiddle to Kate. I know that you did not want to follow rules or protocols or do things the way they have been done for hundreds of years. And when people did not change everything to suit you, you threw a tantrum and ran away, and now you are trying to burn it all down on your way out." "That is not true," Meghan said weakly. "Then why are you still here?" Piers asked. "You said you were done. You said you were leaving, but you are still standing there. You know why? Because part of you knows I am right. Part of you knows that everything I am saying is hitting a nerve because it is true." Meghan's eyes were filled with tears now, but they looked more like tears of rage than sadness. "You have not heard the last of me." "I am sure I have not," Piers said. "I am sure you will run to Twitter or Instagram or whatever platform you use to complain about how terrible this interview was, how you were attacked, how you were victimized. Yet, again, you will probably claim I was racist or sexist or whatever other accusation you think will get you sympathy. And your fans will believe you because they always do. But the people watching this, the people who actually saw what happened here, they will know the truth. They will know that I asked fair questions and you could not answer them. They will know that you ran away when things got tough, and they will draw their own conclusions. I hope you are proud of yourself," Meghan said quietly. "I am," Piers said without hesitation. "I am proud that I did my job. I am proud that I did not treat you with kid gloves just because of who you married. I am proud that I asked the questions that other journalists are too scared or too starstruck to ask. That is what I do. That is what I have always done. And I am not going to stop just because it hurts your feelings." Meghan looked at him for a long moment, and for a second, it seemed like she might say something else. But then, she just shook her head and turned away, walking off the set without another word. The studio was silent. The crew stood frozen, cameras still rolling, capturing every moment. Piers sat at his desk, watching her go, his expression unreadable. Then he turned to the camera, addressing the audience directly. "Well," he said, his voice calm and measured. "I think that went about as well as could be expected. You see, this is what happens when someone is used to everyone agreeing with them, used to everyone telling them how wonderful they are, and then they run into someone who will not play that game. They cannot handle it. They fall apart." He paused, shuffling his papers. "Now, some of you watching this are probably thinking I was too hard on her. Some of you are probably thinking I am a terrible person for making her cry, for making her leave. But let me ask you something. If a politician came on this show and made serious accusations without backing them up, would you want me to just accept it? If a business leader came on and made claims that damaged other people without providing proof, would you want me to nod and smile? Of course not. You would expect me to push back. You would expect me to ask tough questions. That is my job." He looked directly into the camera. "But because she is Meghan Markle, because she is married to a prince, because she has a good sob story, some people think she should be above questioning. Some people think that asking her to back up her claims is an attack. Well, I disagree. I think everyone should be held to the same standard. I think if you are going to make accusations, you should be prepared to defend them. And if you cannot defend them, maybe you should not make them in the first place. Piers leaned forward, his elbows on the desk. Look, I do not doubt that she had a difficult time. Royal life is not easy. There is pressure, there is scrutiny, there are rules and protocols that can feel suffocating. I get that. But millions of people have difficult lives. Millions of people face real discrimination, real hardship, real struggles. And they do not get to go on Oprah. They do not get multi-million-dollar Netflix deals. They do not get to live in mansions and complain about how hard they have it. He sat back. So yes, I asked her tough questions. Yes, I challenged her narrative. And yes, she could not handle it. But that is not my fault. That is hers. She could have stayed. She could have defended herself. She could have answered the questions. Instead, she ran away. And that tells you everything you need to know. The camera held on his face for a moment longer, and then he smiled, that same confident smile he had at the beginning. We will be right back after this break. Do not go anywhere. The lights dimmed as they cut to commercial. Behind the scenes, producers were scrambling, crew members were whispering, everyone processing what had just happened. But Piers just sat there, cool as ice, knowing that what had just unfolded would be talked about for days, weeks, maybe longer. He had done exactly what he set out to do. He had asked the questions everyone was thinking, but too afraid to say. He had held someone powerful accountable. And when that person could not handle the scrutiny, she had revealed herself. The makeup artist approached to touch up his face for the next segment. That was intense, she whispered. Piers just shrugged. That was journalism. When the cameras came back on, Piers addressed the audience again. Before we continue with today's show, I want to make one thing very clear. What you just witnessed was not an ambush. It was not an attack. Meghan Markle agreed to come on this show. She knew who I was. She knew my reputation. She knew the kinds of questions I asked. She could have said no. She could have requested topics be off limits. She could have done 100 things differently. But she chose to come here, and she chose to sit in that chair. And when things got uncomfortable, she chose to leave. Those were all her choices. He paused. Now, I am sure her team will spin this. They will say I was unfair, that I was cruel, that I had an agenda. But you were all here. You saw it. You heard the questions I asked. Were they tough? Yes. Were they unfair? No. There is a difference. Piers looked down at his notes, then back up. You know what the real issue is? We have created a culture where certain people are considered untouchable, where if you have the right narrative, if you say the right things, if you position yourself as a victim, you become immune to criticism. And that is dangerous. That is how people get away with saying whatever they want without ever having to prove it. That is how reputations get destroyed based on nothing but accusations. And I refuse to be part of that. He tapped his pen against the desk. Meghan Markle wants to be taken seriously. She wants to be seen as a voice for change, as someone fighting for justice and equality. Fine. Then she needs to be able to withstand scrutiny. She needs to be able to answer questions. She needs to be able to defend her positions. If she cannot do that, then she is just another celebrity with a platform and nothing meaningful to say. The audience was hanging on every word. Love him or hate him, Piers knew how to command a room. I have been doing this for 30 years, he continued. I have interviewed murderers, terrorists, presidents, prime ministers, celebrities, royals, everyone. And you know what I have learned? The people who are telling the truth do not run away from questions. They welcome them. They want to explain themselves. They want people to understand their side. It is only the people who are hiding something or who do not have a good answer who shut down and storm off. He let that sink in. So what does that tell you about what happened here today? Piers smiled. I will let you draw your own conclusions, but I think the evidence speaks for itself. He straightened his papers. Now, we have a great show planned for the rest of the hour. Coming up next, we have got a fascinating discussion about cancel culture and whether we have gone too far. After that, a look at the latest political developments. And then, we will take some of your calls. I am sure many of you have thoughts about what just happened, and I want to hear them. He looked into the camera one more time. This is why I do this job. Not to make friends, not to make people comfortable, but to ask the questions that need asking, to hold powerful people accountable, to get to the truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. And I am not going to apologize for that. Not now, not ever. The show continued, but everyone knew what the headline would be. Everyone knew what clip would be played over and over. The moment Meghan Markle walked off set. The moment she could not handle the heat. The moment Piers Morgan proved, once again, that he was willing to go where others would not. In the control room, the director was already cutting together the footage, knowing it would be everywhere within hours. The confrontation, the accusations, the exit. It was television gold. And Piers? He just kept doing his job, moving from segment to segment with the same confidence and clarity he always had. Because for him, this was not personal. This was not about winning or losing. It was about truth. It was about not being afraid to challenge people, regardless of their status or their story. As the show wrapped up, Piers gave his final thoughts. Thank you for watching today. I know it was a bit more dramatic than usual, but sometimes that is what happens when you commit to honest journalism. You cannot control how people react to being questioned. You can only control whether you ask the questions in the first place. And I will always choose to ask. He stood up from his desk, the credits beginning to roll. Join us tomorrow. Same time, same place. Who knows what will happen then? The cameras cut, the lights dimmed, and the studio began to empty. But the impact of what had happened would linger much longer. The video would be watched millions of times. People would debate it endlessly. Some would call Piers a hero, some would call him a villain. But one thing was certain. He had done what he always did. He had asked the questions nobody else would ask. He had refused to treat someone differently because of their title or their tears. He had held the line. And when Meghan Markle could not answer, when she could not defend herself, when she resorted to insults and threats and finally ran away, she had proven his point better than he ever could have himself. The interview was over, but the conversation was just beginning. And Piers Morgan, love him or hate him, had once again reminded everyone why he was one of the most compelling, controversial, and unflinching interviewers on television. He had not backed down. He had not apologized. He had not softened his approach. He had simply done his job. And sometimes, that is all it takes to reveal the truth.